From Philadelphia tonight, the candidates, the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris, and the Republican candidate, of course, the former President Donald Trump, joined in studio by a couple of guys with strategists on their resume here. Democrat Derrick Clegg and Republican Bob Clegg. Yep. Great to see you both.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to be here.
All right, so we're now an hour away from the debate, a little more than an hour away. You're the campaign strategist for the candidate. Let's start with Kamala Harris. What are you saying in her ear right now about what to do tonight?
Well, you know, by this time you have been through all of your debate prep. It's probably a time of meditation right now, just reflecting, relaxing. But, you know, if I'm the campaign manager, I'm going in and I'm giving her a little pep talk saying, you got this. You know what you're talking about. You know the issues. And it's go time. And don't get rattled by the opponent. You know the material, you know the issues that you want to convey to the American people, and go and convey that tonight.
Well, the opponent for Kamala Harris is a master rattler.
No.
How does one tune that out?
Well, you know, you have to be mentally prepared. And Kamala Harris, or Vice President Harris, as I should say, is mentally prepared. I mean, she's a former prosecutor. She's the Vice President of the United States. She's been in difficult situations before, so she's very poised and ready for this opportunity.
Bob, what do you think they're telling Donald Trump?
Well, I think they're telling Donald Trump to be Trump. I mean, he pretty much was in the previous debate against President Biden, and it tended to serve him well. But I also think what they're going to say is be sure and hold Kamala Harris responsible for what's been happening for the last 3.5 years. The way the Democrats have been betraying everything, you would think Donald Trump was still president, not Joe Biden. And I think he's got to hold her accountable for what the Biden-Harris administration has done with the economy, inflation, the border, crime, all sorts of things. And right now, they're trying to escape that responsibility. And the moderators, I don't know, hopefully they'll ask questions that, you know, pertain to her shifts in policy that she's had since 2019. That's the other area that he's got to try to pin her down on. What does she really believe? Does she believe what she said then, or does she believe what she says now? And then in some instances, we don't even know what she believes now in some issue areas.
Derrick, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, listen, my good friend Bob is going to tell you all the good things that Donald Trump has done and will do. But the bottom line is this administration has had to rescue the policies of the Trump administration. When you look at job growth is up right now. The stock market is more popular than it's been in years. I think it's up 24% since this administration has been in office. So you have to look at the facts and not the rhetoric. And that's what this administration has been doing and will continue to do in the presidency of the Harris administration.
The current polls, most of them showing that this is a dead heat, closer than it's ever been at this stage of a presidential campaign, at least in recent memory. Does the debate, therefore, matter more?
This time the debate does matter, and I think it matters more for Donald Trump because Vice President Harris has been who she's always been. She's going to be poised on stage. She's going to be controlled. She's going to know she's going to know the issues that's before her, and she's going to be able to defend the record of the Biden-Harris administration. On the other hand, when you have Donald Trump who's going to be in a room, there's no audience, there's going to be the mics are going to be off after a certain period of time. He's not very good in those situations. He's very good when he's got a teleprompter in front of him. He's going to get unhinged tonight.
What do you think, Bob?
Well, okay, number one, you know, they just did a poll that came out this weekend, New York Times, Siena, and Trump was up by 1, but that's not the point. The point is they asked, is there any additional information you would need to know about Donald Trump? And they asked the same question about Harris. Only 7% of the respondents said they needed more information about Donald Trump and his policies. 30% needed more information about Kamala Harris and her policies. So I think this is more going to be something that she's going to have to address. And this, actually for her, this is a great opportunity for her to talk about what she really, truly believes. We've lived under Trump for 4 years. People know what a Trump presidency is. People actually think more positively about those 4 years than they do about the last 3.5 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So they already have an idea of what a Trump presidency. They have no clue what Kamala Harris is going to be doing as president.
Of course, they're going to want to know more about Vice President Harris because she's only been the nominee for a month, and she's only been in this race to be the nominee for the last, couple of months,
But
right?
she's been vice president for 3.5 years.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
What?
That doesn't matter because
She was our border czar.
she was the border czar, but she was also the vice president of the United States. The people pay attention to the president, right? They pay attention to the president and the president's policies. She has to create her own moving forward. She's going to continue the policies and the successes of the policies that they've had moving forward with the Biden-Harris administration, but she also has to create her own moving forward.
Right. Well, perhaps a strategy for Donald Trump, were the mics left live the entire time, might be to not let her get on track and not be able to articulate those policies in an extended fashion. That won't be the case tonight. She will have she'll have unfettered time to speak,
which I
perhaps
think is
without
good.
interruption. Yeah. Does this,
That's a
as
good
Derrick
thing.
as Derrick speculated, does this hurt or help Donald Trump?
I think
his
that,
strategy.
I think no. Remember, all these rules were rules that were agreed upon by Donald Trump's team and Joe Biden's team.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Biden's team, I understand why they wanted these rules. They understood his mental problems, okay? And they knew that, having muted mics would be less confusing for him. I get that, okay? But now she's stuck with those rules. So that means, he's not going to be interrupting her, which she would love. And it's going to give her an open forum to hopefully, for your side, speak articulately about what her policies are. And she's going to have to, this is a change election, and this is her big problem. How is she going to be a change from her president, Joe Biden? And Donald Trump, you can call him anything you want, but he's a gigantic blower-up or disruptor, and people understand that.
We've had the highest inflation in a long time, and that's a lot of the reason for that is because of Donald Trump's policies. Okay, if you go back and look at his policies. But the bottom line is, when you look at whether the mic is on or off, people are going to be looking at Donald Trump's demeanor. Yeah. He is not going to be able to contain that. Yeah. Because once the vice president starts hitting him with the facts of his presidency, of his antics outside of the presidency, he's going to respond to that, and that body language is going to be seen by the American public.
Does it matter, the debate in Ohio? Why should we care about it?
Well, it matters in that, everything with our Senate race, which is the major race in our state this year, however large the margin is for Donald Trump in Ohio will determine probably whether Sherrod Brown can get reelected or not. The president has carried Ohio twice by 8 percentage points. I think 8 is probably the ceiling on where Sherrod could still win re-election. Anything below that is easier for him. Anything above 8% makes it harder for him. I think President Trump's going to win Ohio by somewhere between 10 and 15 points. And I think the amount of split ticket voters that there would have to be for Brown to get reelected, meaning Trump voters voting then for Brown, I just don't think it's there.
I disagree, of course. I think that former President Trump is definitely going to win the state of Ohio. There's no question about that. But at the same time, I don't think that he's going to go over his 8-point margin that he's had in the last 2 elections. When you start seeing some of these battleground states like Michigan, Pennsylvania start to trend towards Vice President Harris, which are border states to the state of Ohio, I think that that's going to change the trajectory of this race. And I think that Senator Brown is going to get reelected as U.S. Senator.
And does this debate play a role in changing trajectories at all?
I think,
go ahead.
I think the debate gives either candidate momentum.
Okay.
Right? And momentum is what has got Vice President Harris in the position where she has catapulted to the top of the ticket and is now our nominee. So this is a very important debate for either candidate.
Bob?
Well, I think in my lifetime, my adult lifetime, there's only been 2 instances where I think a debate has really mattered in a presidential race. One we just saw, and that was June of this year. The other one I think was Reagan and Carter back in 1980, where they had only one debate, and it was the last week of October. And Ronald Reagan had been portrayed as this crazy actor who was going to blow us up and cause nuclear war. And in that debate, he came across very calm, collected, and presidential. And he ended up winning in a landslide against an incumbent Democrat president, Jimmy Carter. I think those are the only 2 instances. I think every other debate we've had on a presidential level, sure, they've been interesting, but I can't say they ever really were that dramatic of a change in the race because of them.
And maybe Nixon Kennedy before we were adults.
Yeah, that's before my time, Bob.
I hear you. So at the end of the day, at the end of the night, you're looking back as a former strategist to say, okay, that was a really strong performance. If Kamala Harris does what?
Just be Vice President Harris. She's already proven herself. She's going to talk about her agenda. She's going to talk about what she wants to do for the American people. And I think that if she just does that and does not respond in a negative way to what the former president is going to say or try to accuse her of, I think that she's going to be in a very, very positive position.
How about for Donald Trump?
I think if President Trump asks the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago, and hits on that whole, like what we've gone through in the last 3.5 years, do you want that for another 4 years? If he can get that message across, I think that's all he needs to do.
Well, we'll know starting at 9 o'clock tonight, the debate being broadcast live on ABC television from, which will be ABC 6, of course, here in Columbus and Central Ohio, from Philadelphia. We'll be following along very closely. Derrick, Clegg, Bob Clegg, thanks for joining us here. We'll look for a little more insight from you mid-debate here tonight, and we hope you'll join us then for the ABC coverage beginning on the broadcast, ABC 6, starting at 8 o'clock.